Let me start off this video by saying that this season is bad, which is a massive shame because I absolutely loved the first season. And what makes it worse is that I wrote a rough script for this video before I watched the final episode. And while I said it's a lot worse than the first season, it wasn't that bad. I still had an overall enjoyable experience. Yeah, no, that last episode completely fucks it all up. Before I continue talking about this season, I want to let you guys know that I never played the second game. So everything that happens is completely new to me. The only thing I knew about that game is the classic golf club scene. And also I kind of have to talk about spoilers because a gigantic event happens at the start of the story, and it'll be kind of hard to tiptoe around it, so this is a review for people who've already seen the show or played the game. Okay, so I have to get this off my chest straight away because it's the biggest talking point surrounding this season, and that is the protagonist of this show, Ellie. Now first of all, the Bella Ramsey hate needs to stop. Whenever I go through Instagram and there's a post surrounding Ellie, the comments are absolutely violating her. I'll admit it was funny at first, but it's gone way too far. I see articles saying things like Bella Ramsey is the least liked actor right now. Now I don't agree, I personally believe she's a great actress. After all, she was pretty liked in the first season and she was pretty good in her other roles. The problem is that her character, it fucking sucks. They kind of fucked her up. Now one of the biggest criticisms that I agree with is how Ellie acts. The story is set 5 years after the first season, and so she's supposed to be a lot more mature by this point. But she isn't. She still acts like the same as she did in the first season when she was 14. However, after Joel's death in the second episode, in my opinion, she grew up. She was no longer acting like the bubbly, innocent 14-year-old girl anymore. There's a great scene in episode 3 where Ellie makes a speech in order to convince her community to get revenge on Joel. And rather than speaking from her anger and likely making the situation worse, she speaks like a leader and even writes a speech herself. This is growth. Ellie recognizes that her anger will only make things worse. She's now a lot more mindful with her words and she's a lot more responsible. The issue is that they fucked her character up in the final episode. We come to a crucial point of the story where Ellie has to choose between following Jesse to get Tommy's help and save her pregnant best friend, or to completely abandon that and instead go to kill Abby, which inevitably cost the lives of two characters that I like. That decision completely assassinates her character in my opinion. She was supposed to showcase her growth and maturity in that scene, something the entire season has been building towards, only to show that she's still a 14-year-old self from the first season. And what makes it worse is that this season fooled me. I was genuinely invested into Ellie's character and how she was changing from episode 2 through to 6, only for the show to completely fumble her character arc at the very end. So yeah, that scene for me personally is the worst in the show, and honestly it's the worst episode in the whole show. But let's talk about something positive that happens in this season. The characters. In my opinion, the first season's strongest attribute was the characters. The brilliant and emotional relationship between Joel and Ellie, the best episode of the show involving Frank and Bill, and the devastating ending of the two brothers. All these characters are extremely memorable and are the biggest reasons to why I loved season 1. And whilst the characters in season 2 aren't as great as they are, the show still continues to have good characters. Dina is probably my favorite character in the show. She essentially replaces Joel when Ellie goes on an adventure, and whilst the romantic relationship is definitely different to a father and daughter one, it was still fun to watch these two enjoy each other's company and go through tough shit together. Jesse is a great character as well. He's probably the nicest and most pure-hearted character in the show without even really showing it, and also adds great tension to the show. And even though he has a much less significant role in this season, Joel was great on screen, especially when he was faced with what he did at the hospital. We even had interesting characters like Abby and Isaac. My only criticism towards them is that I wish we were allowed to have more screen time with them, but they're definitely setting them up for the following season, so I don't mind that much. So even though they did a pretty good job with the characters outside of Ellie, it just pales in comparison to the first season, which just makes this one so much more disappointing. I've gone back and rewatched multiple scenes from that first season. That's how memorable it is, and I don't think I'll be doing that with this season at all. One thing that's distinctly different between the first and second season is the overall tone. The pacing is much slower this time. Not much really happens, especially when compared to the first season. So I can see why a lot of people find this season a little bit boring, but honestly I kinda like the slower pace. Episodes become a lot more gradual, we see the characters mourn a lot more, and the development of characters feel very personal and realistic. Now, do I prefer the tense scenes in the first season? Yes, absolutely. There just simply weren't enough scenes involving clickers and zombies in this season. Although that can't be said with the second episode, which was probably the best episode of the season for me. Now this is a fucking zombie scene that we all want, and the best part about that sequence is that whilst Jacksonville was being attacked by hundreds of zombies, we'd cut back to Abby and Joel. It kept tensions high for the whole episode. But we have to talk about what happens at the end of that episode, which is of course Joel dying. I know everyone's talking about this scene and it's something I knew going into the season. I remember when I learned about this back in 2020 and I tried to gaslight myself, pretending that the game never existed and that Joel and Ellie actually had a happily ever after. Yeah, nah, I was not able to do that successfully. And honestly, by knowing that Joel will die within the first 2 episodes, I think it helped me to accept it. Now of course, watching Abby kill Joel in front of Ellie was very hard to watch, but I don't necessarily think it's the worst idea in the world. See, we all knew Joel did a bad thing at the end of season 1, but a lot of people feel like he's justified, especially because he didn't even get to say goodbye to Ellie. So it's almost like they had it coming. But Abby's character is a lot more justified for seeking revenge on Joel. The show does a great job of revealing how Joel's actions has affected not just her, but everyone else's life. So his death was kind of inevitable and wasn't just thrown in for shock factor. Now, would I rather Joel go through a character arc where he slowly redeems himself and somehow makes up for his sins? Yes, absolutely. But by accepting that this is where the story is headed, I was able to swallow his death a bit easier. So overall, did I enjoy the second season? Well, it was a mixed bag. I wouldn't exactly call it a bad season, but it's definitely a disappointing one. Nowhere near as good as the first season, which I honestly kind of expected since I knew the second game was quite controversial. I think keeping my expectations relatively low helped me enjoy the season a bit more than others. But I have to be upfront with you guys and say that a part of me wishes this season never existed. And that's because it has the potential to fuck up the first season. The ending of the first game is one of the most powerful and iconic endings I've ever seen. And if the next season fucks it up completely, I will not look back fondly. To be honest, they already kind of fucked it up, but I have faith in this show that they can somehow redeem itself. I'm gonna be generous and give this show a 6 out of 10, but if season 3 is also underwhelming, it can legitimately change to like a 3 out of 10. That might seem unfair to some of you guys, but think of it like this. The first Joker movie, I used to think of it as like a 9 out of 10. But because the second film completely fucks up the entire point of the first movie, it's now like a 6 out of 10. And that same logic applies to The Last of Us Season 2. HBO, for your sake, you better not fuck up Season 3 or you'll become the next Joker 2. Thank you guys for watching. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. From what I've heard, most people do not like Season 2, but I'd love to hear if you did enjoy it. I would have liked to talk a bit more in depth about this season, but I've got to lock in for uni. I've got like 4 assignments due in like the next 2 weeks, so that's fun. But once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!